So Ariel Helwani on Monday teased that Tony Khan was going to be joining him live in studio on Tuesday, and it got a lot of people wondering what that's going to look like. Because for those who remembered, the last sit-down live interview between Tony and Ariel was contentious. It was tense. Ariel said for years that he didn't really like it that much, and even Tony was like, "I didn't really hate it that much." But there were other instances that made that put them at odds in certain ways. To the point where there were a lot of talent, and Tony included, that were not appearing on Helwani's show, and AEW talent were kind of like, they're not doing it, and they weren't doing it, and then suddenly we started seeing some talent show up on the show. 50 million times Tony would have told you yesterday that Darby Allin was in fact on Ariel Helwani's show, and that Tony really liked it. And then other wrestlers from AEW have been on the program. But yesterday, TK was on. I thought it was a hell of a conversation. They did 80 minutes. They did a little over an hour and 20. And I think that Helwani got the questions in that he wanted. I think TK was really good at reading not just the room, but also reading the questions. You weren't going to get bombshells out of every answer, but I think in a lot of ways, Tony gave a little bit more than normal. There was a lot of the same old when he did the laundry list of missing talent. You got a lot of the same old Tony Khan, tells you, we love Britt Baker. We miss Britt Baker. She'll come back. I've called her, blah, blah, blah. You got the Chris Jericho is still a member of AEW, first-time champion, blah, blah, blah. All the niceties that come with it. But I do like that Helwani, pushed back a few times and said, but is he going to come back this year? And Tony was like, we like him and maybe he will. But otherwise, a good conversation. And Jeremy, the most eye-opening moment of the entire chat was when Tony turned his back on Time Cop. And he has now told us that Ghostbusters is his new favorite movie. He didn't say it verbatim, but I saw it in his eyes. He brought up Ghostbusters. He brought up that one scene that he goes back to. And all I said was, Tony, Time Cop, it's over. We've entered the Ghostbusters era of AEW. Elite Busters?
All Elite. They did that. They did the Elite Busters.
We're back, baby. What do you think of this? You were obviously on this, covering this, listening to all of it. Overall, what were your thoughts about Tony and Ariel Helwani?
It was good. I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't. A couple of things before we kind of dive into maybe some of the answers and whatnot. A little disappointed, but also understandable that Tony was like, why'd you call me Snowman? What was that about? What were you trying to get out of there? I think this really just goes to show the niceness of Tony Khan, because he didn't need to do this interview, especially with the things Ariel has said over the years. Like Tony's not losing anything by doing it. He does have a little bit to gain because Ariel's got a good audience, and his audience, there's the crossover between wrestling and MMA and everything. And Ariel's had a lot of wrestlers on. So he gained a little bit, but Tony can go on any show and it'll get views and people will cover it and everything. But he did have plenty to lose, especially if things didn't turn out too well. I think Tony probably knew things would be okay, and Tony's not going to be confrontational in these. So it doesn't surprise me that he didn't be like, hey, what was the snowman thing all about? Because that thing, like, wrestlers get asked about that. Like, wrestlers have been asked about that in other interviews, and it kind of started with that Helwani comment. So I don't wish Tony had brought it up, but I also kind of wish Tony had brought it up and just gotten an answer out of it. Obviously, Ariel's a very good interviewer. He asks very good follow-up questions. Ariel is also in a good position of, he knows he has a decent amount of time with these people. This isn't Tony doing a 10-minute radio hit where, hey, let me promote, and go from there. Like, Ariel got 80 minutes. And I mean, even a couple of times he's like, I know we got to wrap up. And then they kind of kept going. It's an in-studio interview. It's not a Zoom call interview, because I'm pretty sure their first one was over video. And so that that doesn't help things a lot of times. Like when it's in studio, it's always a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to be more personable with the other person. I think they both had an expectation of we want to do this right, and we want to do good content for both of our fan bases. Again, Tony's not very confrontational. I don't think Ariel wanted to be confrontational, so they both had essentially a mutual unsaid or maybe said agreement of let's play nice throughout this whole thing. Tony said it a couple of times, like, I think I've been very good. I've answered all your questions, and he was right. And so when he did give, like, I can't really comment on that, then Tony, it was a little bit more acceptable compared to the last time Tony was on, when everything was a no comment and I can't say anything more about that. Those are my kind of two things from this. Is I wanted him to kind of address the snowman thing, because I do think that's a talking point when it comes to this, and it was a reason why they kind of had the contentious relationship, on top of the previous interview that Ariel called the worst of all time. And Ariel is good, and it's a comfortable setting, and knowing you have that much time with somebody makes things a lot easier to get out of things. And also, again, it's not a 10-minute radio hit where, hey, you got to promote. This is a more long form of a chat, so you can kind of dive into things a little bit more.
Tony, and we've said this before, is a very interesting figure, because he is excited, he's eccentric, and he's also awkward. And I think he'll tell you the same thing, that he is a little bit awkward. He's almost programmed a certain way, and you can tell, like, when he gets into his bag, and it's not just the promoter bag, but like talking about wrestling and the history, and not only the history of AEW, but also the history of like the wrestling he grew up with. God, he's so well spoken and learned about it. And then when he has to speak about topics of confrontation, we know historically that he doesn't like that. He doesn't like speaking about it, and he doesn't like dealing with confrontation, which I understand. Like, I don't like confrontation either. I try to stay away from it. It's not my favorite thing either. So I give Tony a lot of credit for being out there and putting himself in those positions, and wanting to speak passionately about something he really cares about, being AEW and wrestling in general. But when I watch him, sometimes I'm just like, you see him thinking, you see the gears turning, which is what some people really find to be a turnoff about being with Tony, because it's like, oh, he's thinking too much. But you have to, because he has been scrutinized from day one. He has said things that sometimes have hit very poorly, and he's also said things that sometimes are praised. I thought this time around he came in not only prepared, but also willing to be a little bit more vulnerable. But also, and I give Tony full marks for this, he called out Ariel at the right time when Ariel started asking questions about that were a little more personal based, like the CM Punk stuff. He said, like, oh, you got me comfortable. You wanted me to start talking about this. He called him out. He was like, this is an interview tactic. And the fact that Tony knew and said it, I don't say this from a malicious standpoint. I think it was just the fact that, like, Tony knew and understood what that moment was. For him to say it, I thought that was really smart, and I thought that was good, because it reset the expectations of what was going to be the next question or the follow-up from Helwani. And that stuff is you can teach that, but how you implement it is a totally different situation. So again, I don't always love Tony interviews, and you and I joke about it all the time, that he hits the promoter vibe and then he's got exactly the verbiage he wants and he says it verbatim, and you do too. This was a little bit different. He had some of those, but I mean, walking on the set, and the first thing he says is, I really love this set. It's the best lit set in all of TV.
I thought that was...
Oh, that's where you go. It's like, Tony's a man after my own heart. The best lit set, he says.
That was like, very funny when he talked about the lighting to open the show.
It's like he didn't want to do it, and the whole time that he was doing prep, like Adam Hopkins, who was there, and they praised Adam Hopkins, he was also a very, very nice dude. I've had plenty of interactions, very positive ones with him for AWPR, and like, he's putting over Hopkins, and I'm thinking to myself, I could just see yesterday Hopkins being like, pick one thing, one thing that you really like from his set and just compliment him on it. And Tony being like, it's all WWE shit. He doesn't have Jaguar stuff. He doesn't have any Fulham stuff. He likes none of the same teams I do. He likes nothing that I like. I guess his lights are nice. And Adam's like, go with that, go with that, go with that. Because it's true. He's like, he's got a Bills jersey on his chair. He's got who's he a fan of? What's the team in the UK, the soccer club that he likes?
I have no idea.
Ariel likes a different team. He doesn't like Fulham. He likes another team that's a rival team, and it's just really funny. He's just like Ariel being like, you and I are probably very similar. We could probably be friends. But again, I thought in a lot of ways it was a productive conversation. I thought in a lot of ways Tony showed a very different view of himself. Nottingham, thank you, Louis, knowing this. Nottingham Forest and Matthew Hooks too. Anyway, different teams, but you can see the similarities because Ariel also has his way of doing things, and like they're very set people when it comes to their tunnel vision. So for that, I thought the interview ended up going a lot better. They were both ready to be flexible and understand that they are different, but also coming from the same type of promotion. Oh, it's good.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was a good interview, and I think the best stuff from the interview was the Punk stuff, because Tony in the past really hasn't commented on those things. So I thought Ariel did a good job asking the questions of the tape and why the decision to air that, and the bigger one of the criticism, because this is not a criticism that CM Punk just has of, oh, people walk all over Tony and he's too nice and everything. Like, that's a criticism a lot of people have of Tony. And so Tony pushing back on that, or giving a response, it wasn't necessarily a pushback, but Tony giving a response on that, I thought was good. Like, did he give any groundbreaking response with anything? No, everything was pretty by the numbers with it.
I will say this, in the past, something that stuck out to me was once upon a time Tony was like, oh, tribalism in wrestling could be a good thing, he had said at one point. And for him to go back in this interview, and he was a lot more level-headed. He talked about Miro, for example, and his feeling, he was very complimentary towards the idea of when talent goes somewhere else or leaves the company, that it's not, it doesn't take it as personally as it once felt. And for that, I think that shows growth, professionally speaking as well, because he says with Miro, we had different visions, and that's okay. And that is, again, feel how maybe afterwards the camera's cutting, he's like, I fucking hate Miro. I get it. Like, whatever. But him saying at least on a camera that he's like, I see it this way and this is the way it is, I'll take that growth over like, yeah, tribalism in wrestling should exist. Well, no, because then it just becomes worse and worse. But yeah.
No, again, Tony is a nice guy. That's the thing about Tony. And that's why when people say stuff about him and everything, I was like, I mean, look, you want to criticize his booking? Sure, we do it on the show all the time. Like, some of the decisions aren't great. And there are even some stuff when it comes to contracts and holding guys out and sidelining people and everything. It's like, yeah, you probably handle those things a little bit better. But overall, I don't think you're going to truly find anybody that is like, yeah, Tony Khan sucks and is like a horrible human being and has done like deplorable shit. Yet the criticism of Tony is that he is too nice and allows people to walk over him. That is the criticism of Tony Khan. And it's like, well, would you rather that, or would you rather some of the other stuff that we've heard about from other people? He's just a very nice guy, and his answers on this were, again, just very complimentary of everything. His answer of the photo with Ricky, Jade, Punk, and Cody, Ariel was trying to needle a little bit. It's like, how does that make you feel, type of thing. I was like, oh, it made me smile because it made me think of the Cody and Moxley photo. And I took that photo, and he's like, I could talk for hours about how much I love all four of them as people and all the great times we had in AEW, everything. And like, they're doing great now. And like, we have a great roster and we're on the up right now. It's like, okay, like, he's not going to bury anybody. I think Tony knows that's not smart business, because what benefit is it of him to be like, yeah, Didn't love how Ricky left. Didn't love how Jade left. Didn't love how Punk left. Didn't love how Cody left. You know, bad fallout there with all of them. CM Punk sold me a bill of goods when he wanted to come in. Cody said he was going to be here for life when he helped found the company. We put Jade Cargill on the map. No one knows she existed without us. We plucked Ricky from the NWA, and then look how they left. It doesn't benefit him because, as we've seen in wrestling, you never know how these things can come back around. And there could be a point where Cody, as I bump my mic, where Cody, Jade, Punk, and Ricky might be like, maybe this WWE thing isn't for me anymore. Maybe I do want to go back to AEW. And they'll probably remember that, hey, Tony spoke very highly of me. And even if Tony buried him, we've been able to mend those fences as well in the past. So
there's plenty more over on Fightful Overbooked. Click that subscribe button, tap that bell, get your notifications. And while you're at it, like the videos, interact with them, say some stuff. We want to hear from you. While you're at it, join us every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, live for In the Weeds. You might like it.